Hello, and welcome to one of the highlights of MicroStrategy World, our CEO keynote. With our conference virtual this year, we've decided to place the usual presentation with a more intimate interview discussing many changes that have occurred in 2020 and what's ahead of us in 2021 and beyond. My name is Jody Paparello, and I'm the Chief HR Officer at MicroStrategy. I've been with the company for a little over 18 years in many different roles, and I'm really excited to be here today. With me this morning is our founder, chairman, and CEO, Michael Saylor. Good morning, Michael.
How are you, Jody?
So let's go ahead and jump right in. So starting at a high level, Michael, how would you say the pandemic of 2020 has impacted the macro economy?
I think that what we found in 2020 and our response to the pandemic is a lot of business as usual was no longer practical, and eventually we found is no longer necessary. So we're all, I think, pretty familiar with some big changes, the transition and acceleration to remote work, and with that transformation and acceleration to remote education. And yeah, you could say 2020 saw a certain crystallization and conversion to a much more efficient economy. I think you could say it's the end of the commute and the end of business travel as we know it. The nexus of business activity shifted from the office to the home, and the nexus of shopping activity shifted from stores to the handset or the computer. Nexus shifted away from hotels, away from public squares. It became a lot harder for us to congregate. It became a lot harder to do things that required mass and motion. And as we found that we have to do things remotely, that accelerated the virtualization of entire segments of our economy.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that's affected the business operations?
I think most businesses realize now they have to have a virtual storefront. If you're going to sell goods or services, it's unlikely you're going to do them manually in close contact. And as we have transitioned from doing things manually in a labor-intensive, capital-intensive, real estate-intensive fashion, we've realized our websites are more important. Our social media presence is much more important. And the software that we use to either market the product or sell the product or service the product has become much more important. There's a real big shift to we talk about digital transformation. This was a massive acceleration in digital transformation of lots and lots of things.
Yeah, so you've talked a little bit about how it's impacted business operations, products and services. What would you say it's impacted on the financial markets?
The things that we can dematerialize to software travel very, very quickly if we could virtualize it. And so virtual products, virtual services exploded in utility in the last 12 months. Manual products and services were much more challenged and attenuated. And of course, what we discovered is that financialization, anything that can be expressed as a financial product, was able to move virtually. We can move $1 million as easily as $1 billion, as easily as $1. And so those kind of businesses scale very rapidly. I think what we saw in 2020, as we call a K-shaped recovery, we saw that manual Main Street based products and services they disseminated very slowly. They're very challenged. They have to be really completely rethought, and people shifted their demand away from them. And then on the other hand, financial products bounced back much more rapidly. You could almost say the political response to the pandemic is such that it's very challenging to do things that require material and manual labor, but governments found it's much easier to distribute virtual products, and the ultimate virtual product is money, and financial products. So the response to the pandemic tended to be a fiscal and a monetary stimulus response, and that resulted in an explosion of interest in those things. As the financial markets recovered, just about everybody started downloading the Square Cash application. They downloaded Robinhood. They started to focus upon financial activity. If you can't go to a sporting event and gamble on the sporting event, you can go to the stock market and you can gamble on the stock market because it's completely virtualized.
Yeah. So you use this term a lot at the company, virtual wave. What exactly is the virtual wave?
You know, the virtual wave's a paradigm shift, a big paradigm shift. The last major paradigm shift was the mobile wave, and that kicked off in 2010. And that was the transformation of software from the desktop and the laptop to the mobile device. And the virtual wave is a dramatic acceleration in the dematerialization of processes and products, and the way that we interact with people. It used to be that we went to business events, and all of a sudden the business events dematerialized to be online events. It used to be we went to business meetings, and the business meetings dematerialized to be Zoom meetings. It used to be that we shipped products, and then the products dematerialized to software. So the virtual wave is just a dramatic transformation in the way that we live.
Who would you describe to be the big technology winners of the virtual wave?
As we transitioned from communicating to people in person, we started communicating online, and so you saw a dramatic growth in dependence on Twitter, right? I think we've seen an explosion in utilization of YouTube. People are now using YouTube to upload educational content as well as upload entertainment content. And in a world where you can't go to a football stadium and you're on your computer, or you can't go to a movie theater, then you tend to go to the products that make it easiest to stream that video. And so Twitter and YouTube are big winners. We all know the story of Zoom, which went from 10 million users to 400 million users in a matter of weeks. We've seen an explosion in social media. We've seen an explosion in online streaming video. We all know the stories of the entertainment online streaming services. I mean, Netflix is a big winner. Disney Plus has been a big winner. And in the business world, AWS, Azure, cloud service providers have seen an explosion in demand. All of these things are ways to virtualize a message, virtualize a service, virtualize a product.
What would you say that it takes to really compete in the new world?
If I replace 10,000 salespeople with one website, then what I'm doing is I'm automating the sales activity, right? And so there's an explosion in demand for coding skills to automate. The other thing that I've noticed is, it used to be you would have 5,000 bars with 5,000 different bands playing at the same time. Now you have one band playing on YouTube to 500,000 people. So what you have is an explosion of popularity of the celebrities and the best products. So specialization is really important. The world doesn't want the average bluegrass band. The world wants the best bluegrass band on YouTube. And that means the bluegrass band that records in super high definition 4K with great stereo sound that's attractively produced, that puts out really high quality content every single week. That band might very well generate 1 million followers or 1 million customers. And the good news is the band explodes. And the bad news is 3,700 local bands whose primary value proposition is they're in front of your face playing at the county fair on a Saturday afternoon, they struggle. So specialization is really key. You need to be the best in the world at what you do. Automation is really key. You need to find a way to deliver it via a website. Acceleration is really key. People expect lots of high quality content and really good services and features to be delivered faster. All of these things play into the notion of virtualization. And what do we really want in this world? Well, we want people that have insanely great coding skills, or we want people that have really good communication skills. If you can communicate, tell me why I want to buy that product. We can upload that to YouTube. You might have 350,000 views of that one salesperson explaining why you should buy that product. In the 20th century, we would have hired 10,000 salespeople to meet with every doctor in every hospital and explain as best they can why you should prescribe that drug. Today, why wouldn't you just have the single best communicator articulate that, upload it to YouTube, and let every doctor in the world download the video 1.2 million times? So being a really good communicator is important, and without coding skills, you have no product.
So you talked a little bit about some of the winners of the virtual wave, what it takes to compete, some of the skills that you need in this new world. What is the biggest surprise that you've seen in the virtual wave?
You know, I think we saw YouTube coming, and I think we saw Twitter, and we knew about social media, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat. These things, they were all coming. We even knew about AWS and Azure. They were all gradually coming, and even Zoom was creeping. I think the biggest surprise, which was a shocker to me, is the emergence of a monetary network. The virtualization of products and services and things that people did, well, that most people can get their hands around that. They experience that. But the virtualization of money, that's a big idea. We have $300 trillion worth of money floating around in stocks, bonds, commercial real estate, and cash and banks. And it's the 20th century form of assets. And what we saw this year is an explosion, an emergence of a new form of money. And that new form of money is cryptocurrency. And the winning cryptocurrency is Bitcoin. And as we discovered digital scarcity in the form of money, we realized that it's an open network, an open system form of virtual currency. And of course, what's interesting about it is you can plug it into a mobile application. So Bitcoin got plugged into Square Cash and PayPal, and the next stop is hundreds of millions of people plugging their mobile apps into a digital monetary network. And as Bitcoin got plugged into, it's getting plugged into mutual funds and investment funds, and we plugged into our company, we're really seeing the emergence of a dominant digital monetary network. Twitter became a dominant digital speech network. Facebook is a dominant digital social network. Amazon is a dominant digital retail network. Apple is a dominant digital mobile network of its own. And yet we never really thought there would be a digital monetary network. We didn't really need it before March, but in March of 2020, with the K-shaped recovery, simultaneously what we realized is Main Street needs to virtualize, and we needed to virtualize our products and our services in order to deliver them with much, much lower friction and human contact and at the speed of light. And then we also realized that we needed to find a way to virtualize our money, because the financial response to the pandemic is one of monetary expansion, and the monetary expansion has created asset inflation, and the asset inflation has created a stampede toward a new monetary system, a better monetary system. Just like Twitter is a better way to communicate your speech, just like YouTube is a better way to move your entertainment or your education content around, Bitcoin is a better way to move your money around. And that's one I just didn't see coming at all.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit at the macro level, but when you come back to sort of the company, we've termed this virtual wave. We use it a lot here at MicroStrategy. What would you say, how have we adjusted to the virtual wave?
Well, first thing we realized is the website is supreme. People need to be able to do everything on your website. So we overhauled our website and we made it possible to go and get all the marketing information you need about the company. We overhauled all of our sales information. We really converted our website into a YouTube type experience because we realized that it's got to be video first. So any question you have about the product, you could find out via video on our website. We turned our website into our best salesperson in essence, because anybody can show up 24/7, 365. They can register. They can find out everything about our products. They can also start a trial. So we made it possible for people to start to do demos and to engage with us. We made it possible for people to get tech support on the website directly. We virtualized our education and made it possible for all of our customers to learn anything on our website. We virtualized our investor relations. Now you can go and find that out. We virtualized our recruiting activity. If you want to know what roles are available, they're on the website. So the website really became front and center, and it replaced hundreds of thousands of hours of activity with automated video and automated routines. And that was a big first step. I think the next thing we realized is we're going to have to embrace social media much more enthusiastically. We can't spread the message and communicate to customers by getting on planes and flying to places and staying in hotels and knocking on doors and showing up in offices. It's just not practical anymore. And so we adopted Twitter, and I began to tweet a lot more. We adopted YouTube. We adopted podcasting. You know, we discovered microphones, and we discovered higher quality cameras, and we realized that it's not practical to speak to customers one at a time. You need to speak to customers 100,000 times in a row. So we started to create content and upload it into the major networks, into Twitter, into YouTube, into LinkedIn, and just make it easier for people to communicate to us. And those external things, I think you can see those if you're a customer. There was also an internal set of changes. We really moved toward acceleration and compression of our internal meetings and our business reviews. Used to be we would have 20 people in a technology review, and we'd spend a week working on it. And then we realized that, well, we could just we could upload the presentation as a video and attach it to the review, and then ask the 20 people to watch the video before they showed up to the meeting. And when you watch a video before the meeting, then you can speed it up and watch it 50% faster. If I watch it 50% faster, instead of 20 hours taken up for a 1 hour meeting, maybe it's 10 hours that are taken up for the 1 hour meeting. Well, then what happened next is we realized that half the people just wanted the content. They didn't really need to be at the meeting. So we were able to save their time, and only 10 people show up to the meeting. And then we realized that, well, if everybody shows up to the meeting and they already know everything is going to be presented, in the first 1 minute, we can just start to talk about how we feel about it. So our meetings became much more interactive. And of course, we also realized that 10 people could show up. We could have a 15-minute meeting. Everybody could express their opinion and we could resolve the meeting in 15 minutes. So our 1 hour meeting became a 15-minute meeting, and our 1 week process became a 1 day process. And as that evolved, we realized that we didn't even necessarily need to think in terms of meetings. We could integrate video directly into our systems of record. So if we have 100 features to build in the product, we might create a 2-minute video for each feature, put it into our program management system. And then when I come in the morning, I see 22 features. I click on the feature, I look at the video, I approve the feature, or I give feedback, and there never was a meeting. We actually moved to an organic flow where somebody in China who's asleep when I'm awake is able to upload a video, and I watch it while they're asleep, and I give them my comments. And then the next morning when they come in, they actually know what I think, even though we're in different parts of the world and different time zones. And herein is really the magic of the virtual wave, which is we realize you can bend time and space. You know, it's possible for people all around the world to be working in different locations at different times and yet be together. And once we realized that, we started implementing a 24/7 culture of response, where a customer might call in with a tech support case. We could record the tech support case, upload it in our system of record, and direct it to an engineer that isn't even awake. And then when they get up and they come in the office somewhere else in the world, they can see what the customer thought. They can fix the bug. They can upload in the system of record. And then someone 3,000 miles away comes in to work 8 hours later. They see it, they pass it on, and we can follow the sun from the United States to China to Europe. And perhaps 24 hours later, we will have people in 3 different time zones work on the problem, solve the problem, and deliver it back to the customer. And everybody feels a certain intimacy and understanding of what the customer wanted to do. It's incredibly empowering, you know, as we moved into this virtual wave. And the big result is we realized that people in different places in the world could all work together in different time zones. And we were released from the tyranny of fixed meetings. You don't have to fly from Europe to the United States for a week to sit in a bunch of grueling meetings in order to be engaged with other people. You could be intellectually engaged much more intimately in a much more agile fashion. And you could do it from the comfort of your own home. And it's much more physically healthy. It's much more emotionally, intellectually satisfying. I have traveled around the world, Jody, and I remember, you know, flying around the world to give 20 speeches in 20 different time zones. And it's just it's so grueling, right? It's so hard on your body to be upside down in time zones. The idea that you could communicate to everybody that works with you or everyone that relies upon you, and you could do it from the comfort of your own time zone in a comfortable environment, that's a really powerful thing. You know, people talk about, if we think about remote work, the challenge of how you stay intimately engaged with your coworkers. On one hand, you could say, if you're fixed in the 20th century view, it's like, I need them to be in the office face to face or I can't communicate to them. That's one way of thinking. And by the way, that's the way I thought a year ago, right? That's the way I thought you had to be in front of me for me to communicate. And then we went through this jarring transition to the virtual wave, and then we learned how to virtually communicate. And I remember, it wasn't that long ago, I spoke with everybody that works for our company in Argentina, and they are 12 hours away from us. And yet I was able to speak with each one of them intimately, engaged, and it wasn't expensive, and it wasn't a challenge or a physical demand on their time, and it wasn't challenging for me. And so I was able to engage with them, better, faster, stronger, smarter, cheaper. No real downside. And after I did that, the next week, I met with all of our partners in South America. And so I found that we're much better able to communicate once we embrace these new techniques. And the result is a lot of expensive, painful activity drops away, and a lot of constructive, cheerful activity explodes. And for the organization that can embrace that kind of virtual wave, you can find this incredibly empowering.
Yeah, I agree. Personally for me, I've seen our employees adapt so quickly overnight into this, change and videos and being online. And so it's just been amazing for me to see that as well from our own employees. And so can you tell us a little bit about how it's changed the company's product strategy?
Just like we want to be able to accomplish something from a distance, in the era of the virtual wave, you need to be able to accomplish things from a distance virtually. 10 people in 10 different places need to be able to act in a coordinated fashion effectively with each other, with their vendor. And that means it's just not practical to have manual steps and complex steps in the process. So what we did was really thought about how do you deliver business intelligence to an enterprise in the era of the virtual wave, in the era of remote work. And it becomes pretty clear there are certain things that are critical. One of them is you need to be able to deliver that intelligence out of the cloud, and cloud becomes more important than ever. Because when people decide to upgrade, and they're going to upgrade, they don't really have 6 weeks or 4 weeks. You can't have 3 people coming on site in order to install new software, and it can't be that challenging. So the parts of our business that we have really attacked and worked to re-engineer away are upgrade friction and migration friction. We put a big emphasis on cloud migration, a big emphasis on upgrading all of our customers to the latest version of our software, a big emphasis on deploying our software in a multi-tenant SaaS model. And so we just launched Hyper Now, and Hyper Now is all about deploying hyper intelligence to anybody in the world in less than an hour. If somebody is in Singapore or they're in Sydney, Australia, and it's midnight our time and noon their time on the weekend, and they decide that they want to deploy hyper intelligence, how are they going to do it? Their journey is going to be hit the website, register, start their cloud, their Hyper Now trial. They need to be able to plug in their database, their security model. They need to be able to build the application. They need to be able to deploy it, and they need to be able to embed it in their website. And so our emphasis on embedding intelligence into applications and into websites has been enhanced. And of course, along the way, we made this rule, which is if you have to ask for help, we've failed. And so we have been relentlessly polishing our Hyper Now offering and our modern business intelligence platform, so that anybody in the world, anytime, can build compelling business intelligence embedded in their operation and not ask for help from a human being. Has to all be self-evident, or if there's anything sophisticated, it needs to be easy to get that insight online, on demand, anytime. So you could say it's just all about streamlining for us.
So you talked a little bit about our operational changes, our product strategy changes. What about our corporate strategy? What would you say has changed from our corporate strategy?
The big picture is the company sells business intelligence software. We streamline the operations of the software so as to deliver that in a more automated, more virtualized fashion. That has resulted in a dramatic increase in cash flow of the company. The company generates a lot more cash than ever before. The second thing we've done is we've streamlined the product itself so that we can actually grow the business without using a lot of manual labor and without throwing a lot of cash at the business. And as we have gone through that transformation on our P&L, we realize that we have a lot of cash on our balance sheet and our treasury, and we have to figure out how to create shareholder value with it. So one of the biggest impacts on our corporate strategy is that as we realized that we had a great cash generating business and we weren't going to need to utilize that cash to grow the business and scale it, we started thinking about how we best utilize the money. And the year 2020 is an environment of quite aggressive monetary expansion. So as the money supply of dollars and euros has expanded, that has caused an appreciation in asset prices against those dollars. And if we want to preserve shareholder value, we realize that we need to make sure that the cash flows we generate and the cash that we maintain in our treasury is invested in some kind of asset which is going to appreciate as fast as all the other assets in the market. So that caused us to embrace a Bitcoin strategy. And the idea behind Bitcoin is an engineered safe haven treasury reserve asset. And because it's engineered to be fixed in supply on a global network, that means that if we invest $1 million in Bitcoin, and if the supply of dollars doubles, the price of Bitcoin should reasonably double or go up faster. It becomes an asset inflation hedge. So our big move from a corporate point of view this year is to transition our balance sheet from US dollars and treasury bills, treasury notes, and sovereign debt as our primary treasury reserve asset to Bitcoin as our primary treasury reserve asset. And that has worked out well for us. Another part of our corporate strategy is we realized that one of the advantages we have as a publicly traded company is we have access to cheap financing in the capital markets. So we've engaged in financing, and we've gone and we have raised $650 million in debt, and we did it because we could actually raise the money at less than 1% interest, at 75 basis points. So for all practical purposes, it becomes free money. So we dramatically strengthened our balance sheet by tapping into those capital markets. And we have invested that in Bitcoin. And as we have done those things and Bitcoin has appreciated, our balance sheet has appreciated. And we think that gives us a really strong treasury reserve, and it gives us a strong asset we can use to continue on our mission of building and selling the world's best business intelligence software.
So if you want to hear more about the Bitcoin strategy, you can join our Bitcoin track here at World. So it should be exciting to hear some of that. So how can some of our customers take advantage of the virtual way? What are some of the trends you're seeing there?
Across our customer base, I see there's a migration from on-premise to the cloud. So we've worked to deploy tools and better upgrade programs, and lots of our customers, 1,000 of our customers or more, have engaged with us via our enterprise support program to either upgrade their platform to the latest version of MicroStrategy or to migrate their platform to our cloud environment so that they can continue to stay on the latest version of MicroStrategy, and also to decrease the cost and the complexity of deploying business intelligence throughout their enterprise. So cloud upgrades and migrations, really big trend. Another big trend is taking advantage of our modern platform to embed intelligence into their applications and in their websites, because all of their customers want one-click intelligence or seamless intelligence right in front of their face. And so taking friction out of the business and taking friction out of the process of getting the answer has been really critical. Embedded intelligence has exploded in popularity in the past year. And then I think a very specific form of embedded intelligence is hyper intelligence. The idea of putting hyperintelligence right into your applications and into your websites means that if your customers are on your website or your employees are on your website trying to figure out whether to buy the product or ship it or what to do with you, if they can hover over that thing and get the answer with 0 click, then that's a big benefit to them. So hyperintelligence has exploded, and I think the best idea for customers is try embedding hyperintelligence in your applications using HyperNow, because anybody could go onto our website, spin up a HyperNow environment. They could plug in their data. They could plug in their security model. They could embed hyperintelligence into their website using our SDK, or they could deploy hyperintelligence across anybody else's websites using our plugin, and they could do that in an hour. So what other technique is there to deploy better intelligence to hundreds of thousands or millions of people today out of the cloud? And everybody's got some intelligence that will help their customer or their employee make a better decision. So HyperNow represents a real step change, order of magnitude difference in the cost and the complexity of providing intelligence to the world. So I'm really excited to see how our customers take advantage of our new multi-tenant cloud, our SaaS offering, and HyperNow, and what's to come.
It's been interesting. Using Hyper in HR has been awesome, even for my team. I think nowadays we can't even not have it turned on when we're working. It's been great. As we wrap up, what would you say are the most compelling opportunities in the coming 1 to 3 years?
For most corporations, the compelling opportunities are either going to be to completely virtualize some aspect of their sales or marketing process, or completely virtualize their product to be provisioned via their website and potentially virally plugging it into the social networks. And I think every company's got to be thinking about how you virtualize that aspect of their P&L, their product and their service. Another really compelling opportunity is plugging your company's products or services or balance sheet into this emerging digital monetary network, which we call Bitcoin. If you have a mobile application like Square or PayPal, they're plugging those mobile applications into Bitcoin. And what that means is anybody with a Square application can go ahead and move $1,000 into Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has been appreciating at 200% per year against the US dollar for 10 years, tax-free. So when you plug a mobile payment application into this monetary network, you're delivering a savings account that yields 200% tax-free interest. That's very differentiating for Square and PayPal. It's been great for their products. Millions and millions of new customers are coming to their network. Their stocks are exploding. They're getting massive publicity on CNBC and cable networks. So it's great for their marketing, great for their branding. We're seeing finance companies like Grayscale, they plug Bitcoin into their financial fund offering, a closed-end fund, and that fund went from $2 billion in assets to $20 billion in assets in 1 year. So they grew by a factor of 10. It's extraordinary. If you look at other companies, all banks can benefit from plugging into this Bitcoin network. There are tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars that are going to flow from banks that don't support Bitcoin and the monetary network to those that do. Any insurance companies can plug into this network, and there are insurance products that are starting to plug into the Bitcoin monetary standard. Every company has a treasury. Our company has a treasury. And if your company has money on its balance sheet and it's sitting in fiat currencies like euros and dollars, they're losing about 15% of their purchasing power each year. So corporations that have billions of dollars or tens or hundreds of billions of dollars of cash are looking at losing 75% of the shareholder value, 75% of the cash over the course of a decade in the current monetary environment. The simple solution is convert some of that cash into Bitcoin. We did it. Square did it. You're going to see an avalanche of companies in the coming 12 months also converting their balance sheets into Bitcoin because it's a scarce digital safe haven asset. So compelling opportunities. I think that you already know what happened with Google. Google became a $1 trillion company. It was a good idea to plug your website into the Google search engine and plug your marketing into Google's YouTube. And we know what happened with Apple. People embraced the mobile wave, Apple and Android. We know what happened with Facebook. People embraced Facebook. We know what happened with Twitter. We know what happened with AWS and Azure in the cloud. Most people don't realize what's going to happen here with the digital monetary network, but we're looking at a monetary network that's going to grow from $650 billion in value to $6 trillion to $60 trillion. It may very well become north of $100 trillion in monetary value. And every company has a treasury which would benefit from plugging into it. And every financial company would probably benefit from plugging its financial products or services into this network, because this decade is going to be a decade of explosion in this digital monetary network and this thing we call Bitcoin. It really is quite an extraordinary opportunity, in my opinion, probably the most compelling opportunity I've seen in my lifetime.
I think I've learned more about Bitcoin in the last 3 months than I ever have, and it's been really fascinating. So, well, that wraps up our session today. Thank you, Michael. And thanks to everybody for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.